It's Friday, October 27th. I'm Geoff Schwartz. This is Geoff Schwartz. Smart and you are live on Twitter, YouTube, and on your favorite podcast platform of choice. Thank you, as usual, for joining us as we preview the NFL weekend. On Fridays, we're brought to you by the Vaulted app, the home of my season-long game. We're giving out $14,000 of cash prizes in my pools, with $5,000 allocated to my final pool of the season, which will be the day of the big game. That's Vaulted, spelled V-L-T-E-D. It's a place you can store your sports predictions, participate in cash prize pools without any entry fees, and prove you're smarter than your friends and myself using a Vaulted Challenge feature. I have my own pool in Vaulted each week. We answer 20 questions to win cash prizes. There are no entry fees required to participate. First place gets $400, second place $75, third place $25. It's the only way to qualify for my big game pools to beat me in one of my regular season pools. We'll also be using Vaulted to store the 5 predictions that we make at the end of this show in that app as well. Download Vaulted, V-L-T-E-D. Remember to use my code Geoff. That's Geoff with a G, G-O-F-F. You can see my predictions and play along. And remember, at the end of this show, we'll go over the predictions that we like this week. There's 20 of them, as we do each week, Matt. It's a lot of fun to do. And the most fun to do is this show with you, because we are 23-10-1 in Broncos. That Broncos is actually a tie, so we're 23-10-2. We've had 3 straight weeks of 4-1. This is the final week, Matt. You're on our show for now. Next week, there's an important thing happening in your life, so you will not be here. I think we've talked about before, you're having a kid, not you specifically, your wife is, and so we wish you the best of luck in that endeavor. But I'll tell you what, though, you can't leave me because we are doing so well this year, Matt. So I need you to at least let me know what your picks will be next week if you're not on the show Friday. But after that, your ass better be on this show, okay? I'm just letting you know.
I'm like Sean McVay. He gave birth, I think, Tuesday or Wednesday or something like that this week.
I think his wife would be upset. I think his wife would be upset if you said he gave birth. His wife gave birth, and they have a
McVay
child.
Family. Now,
the McVay family.
Three members deep.
3 members deep. So we wish you, obviously, you and Ivy, the best of luck next week. You'll be back as soon as possible. Next week, guys, we're going to do something different. We'll probably have an interview. I'll go over the picks and the vaulted stuff kind of by myself with input from Matt. He will have to text me what he likes for the week, because very rarely do I like 5 games. Very rarely does he like 5 games. We sort of put them together to end up with the 5, as we do it every Friday. We'll go over all the games. We'll choose our 5 favorite, and at the end, we'll go over our vaulted pool picks of the week. Weird week as usual in the NFL. Look, guys, the thing about the NFL is that each week is its own week. Don't look at last week. Don't look at the week ahead. It's its own week. We saw last night the Bills not cover against Bucks. They should cover against, and the Bills. Before we get into the games this week, Matt, the Bills feel like an unserious playoff contender. Like, what are the Bills? Does anyone know what they are? Do the Bills know what they are?
No. They should have probably lost 2 games that they ended up winning. The Giants game, and then last night, that crazy. I mean, Chris Godwin's getting just flamed on the platform formerly known as Twitter, that's lost all of its money in the last year. With that catch, the ball was like right next to him. Jeff,
my man's a genius.
Have a lot of commentary about that human being. But back to the Bucks. I mean, the Bucks are not a good team at all, and the Bills. No. I don't know what the Bills are going to do. Their defense is, with the loss of 3 key guys, has not looked the same. So yeah, they could be in trouble. They could be a team that just ends up missing the playoffs altogether. But I don't know. It's when 7 teams make the playoffs, they'll figure out a way to get in. But this is just kind of like a worse version of what they've been for a while. I think. Yeah. They just maybe they'll just never get there.
Speaking about teams that are worse versions of what they've ever been, Indianapolis and New Orleans is our first game on the rundown here. Yikes, man! Start off with a bang with a game that we're going to spend so much time talking about.
Yeah, well, I will say, when I talked to our producer Nick yesterday, I was like, "What's your favorite game this week?" And this was his. I don't know why.
What?
I think it's possibly because I think Gardner Minshew is 3-10 in his last 13. I'm doing that off the top of my head.
I think he is.
Yeah, so that could be why. Saints would probably be my play here, but this is not one of our 5. No, thank you. Should we just save everyone some time?
Yeah, Gardner Minshew is so up and down. Like, one week against Jacksonville, he's bad, and last week he's really good. Yeah, I would. I'd stay away from this one if I were you guys. No play for me on this one. The next game, though, is interesting. This is It might be tendency breaker. We'll find out. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, this is interesting. By the way, Jacksonville, only team in the NFL to score 20 points in every game this season. What is that? That's insane. The next game
the lowest it's been. I think scoring's down the lowest since 2010, 2011, something like that.
Yeah, unders remain the play to make. All right, this is two teams that are in the playoff race right now. Jacksonville is going to Pittsburgh. Jacksonville's favored by 2.5. Usually, if you're a listener to this show, this is one of those times where Geoff and I would just sort of not even discuss this game and just hammer the Steelers. But it seems like we both have that weird feeling in our stomach this week about this game. There's something weird about this line. There's something weird about Pittsburgh coming back from a road win and sort of getting all their flowers for winning another game off of the bye. This is it. So we sort of have the same feeling, right?
Yeah, I think Jacksonville's the right play here. Even though it goes against all the Tomlin, we could just blindly take Pittsburgh like we always have and hope for the best. But I mean, think about the last two Pittsburgh games. They beat the Ravens, right? And before their bye, that was the last game before the bye, if I'm correct. They beat them 17-10 in a game where the Ravens outscored them. The Ravens looked better than the entire year, turnover luck, and sort of weird things had to happen for them. It was a classic Steelers win, right? Then they go and play the Rams. And again, like sort of you look at the box score and you're like, yeah, the Rams were 9 of 16 on third down. Were 4 of 12 on third down. The Steelers the Rams had more yards passing. They rushed the ball better. They had less penalties. They had the one turnover. They had the ball a little bit more. Time possession is not terribly important. The Rams had more first downs. And you're like, the Steelers win by 7. It's like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing, man? I would feel like if we took Pittsburgh here blindly like we always do, we would just be like, when Jackson wins this game by 14 points, we'd be like, we were wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I would stay away. I would stay away. I would stay away.
Yeah, I feel like we should as well. A couple of things on this. Deontay Johnson back on the injury report. Their offense really did look different with him. If you think about it, honestly, Pittsburgh, Matt Canada's gotten so much shit this year from fans. No Freiermuth, no Deontay Johnson. I don't think they've gotten a ton of credit for those injuries and overcoming them. But without Johnson back, it's back to Pickens. And that Jacksonville secondary is not great, but it certainly helps to have their first receiver potentially not playing. And Jacksonville, this is a really public dog. And Vegas hanging this line and it not moving all week, despite I think both.
Well, no, it was 1.5. It opened at 1.5. It opened at 1.5.
Yeah. Okay. So now it's split in the money. So this is probably where it'll end up landing at 2.5. But I look, Jacksonville over the last year. This is a good point, Nick. Right? They've lost 5 games in the last year. 1 to the Lions, 1 to Houston this year, and 3 to the Chiefs. Like Jacksonville's good, and they kind of fly under the radar because they play in London, they play on Thursdays, they play the AFC South. So I just feel like this is a little bit of a trick, but I'm not betting against the Steelers here. But I agree. I think this is just one that we lay off because the trends obviously favor Pittsburgh, but I don't think we can do it. All right,
I don't think we can either.
That was good. I'm glad we netted out on the same spot there.
Yes, I think we're in the same spot. I think we're in the same spot this next game too.
I'm very curious about this one. Houston is going to Carolina, battle of the number 1 and number 2 picks. The Texans, they're both off a bye. The Texans are a road favorite of 3 points. We're not 3.5 Carolina here.
It's 3.5 at some places. We're taking Carolina plus 3.5. Yes, this is Matt.
We're not.
Okay.
No.
Okay, Matt.
No.
Matt,
no.
You're taking. This is the spot. This is the ugly spot. You have to take. We have to take worst teams against better teams. Carolina's off a bye. They have a new play caller, and they need a win in the worst possible way. Everyone's on the Texans this weekend. All the public's going to be like, oh, Panthers stink. Let's go Texans here. So I do a show called Bear Bets, another podcast. I cheat on our podcast with another podcast. And Sammy P is one of the guys on the show. And He has a buddy called the bartender. The bartender sends him picks every week, and he posts them on the internet. And the bartender is always wrong. That's the point of this, right? The bartender is wrong every week, Matt. The bartender he said he loves Houston this week. That's the public. The public, it's a real person. I thought it was actually a fake thing. Sammy puts this out, bartender picks each week. The bartender loves Houston. Loves Houston. So maybe that's the reason to take Carolina here. To me, it's a maybe. Carolina plus 3.5 is a maybe for me because it's everything that we have wagered on in the past, and it's a good spot to fade a team in Houston that people are going to wager on that don't deserve it.
It's so funny that you came in with this take because I had the exact same take, and I thought we were just not going to discuss this, and I was like, you know what? I actually like Carolina as a money line dog this week. I think for all the reasons you said, and remember they were up 14-0 to Miami, and in a game where we took Miami, so I ended up watching a decent amount of that, and things changed, right? They just looked a little bit sharper. Bryce Young looked a little more comfortable.
Yeah.
They've gotten some guys back. Their secondary still isn't back. So it's, I think there's a good chance there's going to be a lot of points in this game. This is a pretty low total if you're looking at any of those. So I do think, Carolina also, they haven't covered yet. I think they're 0-5-1 or 0-6-1.
Yeah. They haven't covered yet. Yeah.
And that just doesn't happen. Like at some point, like the market just keeps moving until they get to that point. I agree that Houston is sort of like one of these public teams that everyone likes. So backing the Panthers would be our move here. The 3.5 is interesting. I will say that, but I'm fine sliding this as a maybe and keeping it in the conversation, but I'm definitely not locking in Bryce Young and Adam Thielen to pull off.
No, we don't have to lock it in, but I think it's showing the discussion of games as we kind of peer down the list of games here. So let's go to the next one because I think this one we might agree on.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, that's Philly at my Washington Commanders. The Philly is laying 6.5 off of a big primetime win.
7. It's 7 across the board now. So
7 across the board. We have 7. Interesting. Okay, it's nice doing. This is like a really nice time to get the lines. Friday morning Pacific. So obviously the trends here all tell you to take Washington. I assume that would be the side you're on. I would like to hear your case for it.
Well, the case is that this is the game Washington plays well every year, right? Like this is the game they always play well. They just almost beat the Eagles a couple weekends ago. They just have an embarrassing loss to the Giants. Eagles just had a big win. It's just kind of the narrative sort of aligned for Washington to play this game pretty close. We get 7 points. It's a must-win for Washington. It's a division game. Division games under Ron Rivera tend to be pretty close, right, over the years. I think outside of Dallas, Dallas kicks Washington's ass, though, right? It's not. It's really out of
everyone.
The Eagles and Giants that tend to be close games. I think 7 is just a lot of points for a divisional game where Washington has played the Eagles close over the years.
Yeah, that's what scares me is that sort of the take. That's sort of everyone's opinion now, and I'm a little bit worried about it. That here are the things that
is everyone's opinion matters, or just everyone's, or the public? Like, is it the opinion of the public opinion of like the people that we trust?
Well, a little both. I mean, I think people remember that random Monday night game last year and give Washington a lot of credit for it. I do. So here's the case you could make for Washington. The first is these two teams played, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago. Generally, those games. So the trends say that eventually that second matchup is a little bit closer, right? Like they don't have to like do a whole lot of film study. They know it's coming. That game was really close. The reason Washington lost that game was they had this rookie corner who got drafted a slot before your guy Gonzalez from Oregon, one-on-one with AJ Brown, and he just got torched twice, and that was the difference in the game. And then Ron Rivera didn't go for 2. So it was a close matchup. Hurts is worse on the road. Hurts is clearly like a little bit banged up, right? Like he's clearly like not totally himself. The Eagles also are coming, as I mentioned, off of a big primetime win. Washington traditionally with Rivera, they've done really well in the division. 24-15-1 against the spread as a dog in the NFC, in his own division ever. 8-4-1 against the spread with Washington. The problem is, this Sam Howell sack thing. And if Philly can continue to get home, And they just hand the ball off with Swift 100 times. This could end up being a bit of a blowout, but I agree. You just with the 7, I think especially like this is going to be everyone's teaser game. This is going to be everyone's like leg in the money line parlay. Like it just seems a little bit weird that this hasn't moved more. So I'm okay with taking the risk on Washington, especially if we're getting a full touchdown.
The thing about it too is like I just don't know how many other games that we like on this. Okay, taking the Commanders at home in this spot, getting 7 points over a lot of wagers that we might have to take to get to 5.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Let's put it through, and then let's move down on this list here. This game, I feel like everyone has an opinion on, and I kind of don't. Spoiler alert here. This is the Rams and the Cowboys. New dad Sean McVay is getting 6.5, maybe 7 now. In Dallas, I feel like everyone wants to bet one side of this game, and I just don't really see a big advantage.
6.5. It's 6.5. I think I would take the Rams, but don't feel great about it. It's like that simple, right? Like I just don't feel great about the Rams in this spot. Cowboys are off a bye. I think the thing with the Rams, and we bet the Rams to make the playoffs a couple weeks ago. They lost to the Steelers. Is like I don't really know what they are still, man. That worries me backing them on the road in this spot. I think they'll be able to score with Dallas's deficiencies in the secondary. But if their offensive line can't protect Stafford, then it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So to me, it's a stay away game. I don't really have a feel for this. Maybe you take the Cowboys and you tease them to half a point, I guess. But even then, I don't feel great about the Cowboys in this spot winning this game. Like to me, this is just there's no play in this game whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just don't see a real advantage. The people who like Dallas point out that Dak's really good as a big favorite. Point out McCarthy's record off a bye, although that's mostly inflated from his Aaron Rodgers days and now with his Dak Prescott days. But the Rams can score. Like the Rams can move the ball through the air. Yeah. This Dallas defense is up and down. Like they could come back from this bye week and maybe they've sort of, they turned the Brandon Cooks corner. He kind of got unlocked in their last game before the bye. Maybe their defense got a little healthier. It seemed like Parsons wasn't totally himself the last few games. So I don't know. I just think we can find better games than this. I agree. Agreed. So moving on to the next game, the New England Patriots at the Dolphins. Oh boy. 9.5 is the current line. It's been around here all week. Pros Joe's 2/3 of the tickets interesting. Actually 2/3 of the tickets are on the Patriots now. So people are getting a little skeptical of the Dolphins. What do you think?
Give me the Dolphins, buddy. Give me the Dolphins here. I think we texted about this earlier this week. Okay. Here's the thing. Okay. You ready? Matt. Listen to me. Okay.
I'm listening.
Are the Dolphins playing a team that could physically beat them up in the line of scrimmage?
Well, maybe. I don't think so, but maybe. They played them pretty close at the beginning of the year.
Yeah. That was 7 points. Dolphins won the game by 7 points on the road. Okay. And and now the Patriots are without Christian Gonzalez and Matthew Judon. The Dolphins have blown out teams the last month that are not on their level. The Patriots are not on their level. Today, who knows? It's Friday. Who knows if he's telling the truth? But if he does play and Waddle plays, like what's the Patriots? How are they stopping Miami? A, they don't play well in Miami. And B, they're now overinflated because they won against the Jets. The Bills, I should say. Dolphins lost to the Eagles. We've seen the Dolphins lose now 2 games to teams that punch them in the mouth. The Patriots cannot do that. They are too slow on defense. They're not fast enough, and they're on the road. Is Mac Jones going to play another game like he did last weekend? Absolutely not. I'm Dolphins -9, man. I bet this myself already, or 9.5. I should say there's 1 9 out right now. I think there's 1 9 out on. I see South Point, but I'll take 9.5 around as a consensus. We've been putting in sort of these big favorites each week. Maybe it's our mistake. At some point, it runs out. The luck runs out on these, but I think just Miami kicks their ass, man.
Interesting. So I assumed that we would be talking Patriots as our side here. But I mean, the reason that it makes me nervous is you've got Hill on the injury report. He'll play. Mostert on the injury report. He'll probably play. Waddle, who got injured last week, he's just not looked totally right. Their offensive line's had some injuries. Yes, you get Ramsey back, but like, does that even help? Like, great, he'll go against Kendrick Bourne. Super. The other thing is that the Dolphins play next week at Kansas City, or I'm sorry, not at Kansas City, against Kansas City in Frankfurt. So I don't feel like they need to they just need to survive the game, I feel like. They do. I imagine they do love to beat up on the Patriots. Obviously, like Mac Jones has never covered against the Dolphins. Tua is much better at home than he is on the road. This would be a nice game for them to bank, but I'm a little worried just because of all their health issues.
Here's the thing. We said the same thing about Carolina when they went to Miami, was that, Miami has to play the Eagles the next week and they're going to look ahead, and they just kick the shit out of the Panthers. I mean, like, I don't think the Patriots are just, I don't. I like Miami a lot in this. It was my best bet on my Bear Bets podcast.
Okay.
I just think they kick the shit out of and it's okay to take a big favor. And the public's on New England. Like, Matt, what are we doing? Yeah. Come on.
All right, so let's put that as a maybe. We've got the Dolphins laying 9. And we've got the Commanders +7. We've got the Panthers as a maybe. All right, let's move on to it's so nice having every game this week, by the way. Yeah. All right, Jets Giants. Let's see, the line right now is 3. The Jets are not road favorites. They're favorites on a neutral field to their neighbors in New York. The only side here is the Giants, but I don't want to do it. Do you?
No Andrew Thomas still this week. No, no Daniel Jones. I don't think we have to spend much time on this game. We're not doing it.
Yeah, I do think the Giants. If the Giants, like, they're not out of the playoff conversation.
No, they're not at all.
Tyrod Taylor is like a win. If he wins this game, it's his job, and I think Daniel Jones, they have to figure out what to do with that.
Agreed.
I just think this Jets team is sky high overvalued. I obviously, like, they're not playing on the road, but I see these two teams as about even. The Giants, 2 respectable efforts in a row once they change the quarterback. Daboll is the better quarterback, or better coach, excuse me. If we didn't have a 5th game, I would consider the Giants, but I think we're going to be able to find a couple other contenders here. So
I think
let's pass on the Snoopy Bowl and move on to, good Lord, Desmond Ridder as a road favorite against some quarterback, I think still to be named, unless anything's changed in the last few minutes. Still 2.5 for Atlanta in Tennessee. This, again, is one of those spots where you just sort of automatically would back Vrabel as a home underdog. He's the second most profitable coach behind Mike Tomlin in that spot. But do we have the confidence in Will Levis, Malik Willis?
He's also Vrabel's also 5-1 against the spread when he gets 12 more days of rest.
Yeah,
which are off a bye here.
It's such a gross game, though.
So I hate when on Falcons games, I feel like I'm always on the wrong side. But we've been on this all year. I mean, the Falcons are not good. Like, they are the Giants or the Vikings of last season. Like, they might sneak into the playoffs and they get their asses kicked in the playoff game at home.
Yeah.
I feel like this is telling that it's not at 3, even though Will Levis is starting in his first NFL start. Think about that.
Is that official?
Will Levis his first NFL. Yeah, I think he's okay. And this game is only 2.5. I think it tells you, like, the Falcons are not good, but they're winning games, which is your job. Is you're supposed to win. They've beaten so far the Panthers, the Packers by 1, the Texans by 2, and the Bucks by 3. That's so far who they've taken care of.
Yeah. I mean, this is one we would just throw out the quarterback and just assume that Vrabel with extra rest is a good guy to back with Desmond Ridder laying points on the road.
This is the one I'm most comfortable with, like, just saying, screw it, let's just do it.
Yeah, I like this
the
one
Falcons.
better. Yeah. certainly than the Pittsburgh one. That's sort of the same
absolutely.
boat. All right, so that's another maybe. We've still got, that's a full slate this week. We've got a few games left. This is one I actually am really curious about. The last early game is Minnesota at Green Bay. Man, this line has bounced around all week. As we are recording this, the Packers are catching 1.5 at home.
Yeah.
Do you like this game?
Yeah, I like Green Bay in this game. Do you like Green Bay?
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, one, we just saw the Vikings beat the Niners on Monday Night Football. So that's in the time everyone's like, the Vikings, they're back. They beat the Niners on Monday Night Football. And we saw the Packers, which I did not watch a second of that game live, the Packers Broncos game. The Packers right now are just not playing the best of football. They're 25th in DVOA right now. The Vikings are 16th. But the Packers, they're the kind of the bits and pieces are there. But I do feel like this is, again, that spot. And this is not like the best gambling advice of all time. But we've talked about this spot all season, right? Where one team is sort of getting and the VAR, and then you have another team like the Packers are just forgotten about, right? Forgotten about. The Packers, Matt, are this is for their lives. If they don't win this game, they're 2-5. Season is just done. It's just done, and that's certainly can't happen. But I don't think it's going to happen because I think Green Bay will bow up, make enough plays to win this game, take the 1.5. Anyways, but I have Green Bay here plus 1.5.
Yeah, me too. One of the reasons is, we've talked about this hot team thing this year, where the team that everyone's all over the week before just has lost. And, some people think it's going to be Baltimore. Baltimore seems like the hot team now. I would actually argue it's the Vikings, because the things that people have been saying about Kirk Cousins this week are absolutely ludicrous. And we do this every year, and he's capable of having these good games. Like, I've seen a lot of Kirk Cousins in my life. The guy can light up another team. Like, he's done it, and he's done it on primetime before, actually, against Green Bay a few times. Like, he's got it sometimes. What happens? He then the next game just falls on his ass. And if you actually remember, Geoff, in that quarterback documentary that everyone watched, remember they had that game where they came back against the Colts. It was the biggest comeback in NFL history. And then he said, you know what? The next week, we just sort of had a hard time getting up for that next game, and they lost.
Yes.
This is that. This is the same exact situation. And there's a couple of things. First of all, everyone's penciling in Jordan Addison as number one receiver because he had a nice week. Like, I don't think so, right? Like, he's not. Justin Jefferson's loss has not really impacted them yet. It might here. Jair Alexander, I thought was going to play. It looks like he's tracking to not play, which is potentially something to consider. But one of the things I think that's really impacted the Packers this year is the lack of Aaron Jones. He's been injured. Without him, their offense sort of just doesn't have that extra layer. He is hopefully maybe going to be a little bit healthier this week. He played last week. I think this is just a really good buy low spot on Green Bay and a sell high spot on Minnesota, who now, after a short week, has to go outside and play a team that is desperate, like you said. So the 1.5 is nice. By the way, this opened with the Packers as a favorite and then is flipped. And in those situations, you almost always want to take the team that has turned into the underdog. So let's do it, man. Jordan Love, what could go wrong? All right, so now we've got 5 maybes already, which is really nice. So
yes,
moving into the late window, there's a couple we like here. Cleveland is going to Seattle. The latest line here is still 3.5. Interesting. I have a feeling this isn't going to be on our list, but I do like Cleveland here. Do you?
There's some 4s, by the way. So Caesars has a 4 right now. BetOnline has a 4. So. All right, so no Deshaun Watson, right? Browns.
Yep. Does that even matter?
PJ Walker. It didn't matter at all to the line. We laughed about this with the Colts last week, right? Yep. Seattle has just not played great football lately. And I could see a situation where the Browns defense just suffocates Geno Smith, right? Like that's the play for the Browns here, right? Like the defense just suffocates them, and the Browns run the ball, and they just take over in the ground game and win this game. The thing that I struggle with taking the Browns and maybe you can talk me out of this, and I put him in the maybes list anyways, is Seattle's a really hard place to play as a quarterback that hasn't played in that environment before. And I could see a situation where we need PJ Walker down the stretch to get us a backdoor cover, and he just throws an interception in the noise, right? Just like that's the thing that worries me, Matt, is PJ Walker in Seattle in this spot. So I put the Browns +4 maybe. Is the Browns one of your favorite ones this week?
Let me make the case and see how you feel after I do that. So the Seahawks, I feel like the Seahawks are still getting credit for the first season of last year in some ways. They started, I think, 5-3 or 6-3. This year, their wins, they had that overtime win over the Lions where they, I think, had a +3 turnover margin, a little bit of luck. They've beaten the Panthers, the Giants, and the Cardinals. So arguably the 3 worst teams in the league. Yeah. There's a few other contenders. They lost to Cincy in a game that they maybe should have won. That maybe cancels out the Lions game. And they got smoked by the Rams. When you even go back to last year, at the end of the season, they beat Baker Mayfield and John Wofford when they were playing the Rams. They lost to the Panthers. They basically just ended up, they beat Zach Wilson. Like their record was really inflated from that run at the beginning of the last season. And Geno just kind of hasn't been the same. It seems like he's a little bit banged up. They've got some health issues at their playmaking positions at receiver, right? Like they've got DK's been dealing with an injury. Tyler Lockett popped up on the injury report. Like, let's see if Bobo and JSN can actually beat the Browns D. The other thing, our friend Stuckey at Action Network was talking about this. The Browns play a really different. They play a really physical man-style defense. Geno's the worst quarterback in the league, I think, playing against a man-style defense. So it's not a great matchup for him. The Browns also, like if you think about it, the Browns, they win that game against San Francisco and everyone's all over them. They kind of disappointed last week. Like I feel like even though they ended up covering, I think, did we pick them last week? Yeah, we did pick them and they did cover. Yeah. They still let people down, I feel like, because everyone expected so much of their defense. I think they were still kind of coming back from really. They didn't play well, but I think they were coming off of like a really physical big win, and they still won. And they still beat a team that has a really explosive offense. As I mentioned, the Colts have scored a lot this year. So I actually think it's weirdly kind of a buy low spot for Cleveland. And I know the quarterback thing, backing PJ on the road is a little bit tough, but you're really betting on this defense. And it's just sort of a fate of the Seahawks, who I just, call me a skeptic of the Seahawks. Like I just haven't seen it yet. They're not going to have the success running the ball that they need to sort of thrive. So again, tough one. We already have 5 games we like, but I do think at 4, this belongs in the maybes.
I'm fine with +4 as a maybe. That works for me for now. I think you made a good case. I think that's a side for me with a defense that they have and the way they can, I think, get at Geno Smith and make him uncomfortable and make him, again, Seattle's had red zone issues this year. Again, they haven't been very crisp the last 2 games. Against the Browns defense, you better be freaking crisp, man.
Yeah, you do. All right. That's another maybe. I mean, look, this game is not going to be one of our 5, but we have to talk about it. The Kansas City Chiefs are laying 7 at Denver. Patrick Mahomes has never lost a road or neutral field game against an AFC West opponent, which is, I think, the single craziest stat of any single player in the NFL. The play here would, of course, be Denver catching the 7 at home in a second matchup in a couple of weeks. It also, we already talked about this Kansas City game that's in Frankfurt. They have the game against Miami next week, then a bye, and then I believe it's Philly the week after that. Is that right? So this, in theory, would be a game where they wouldn't show everything. So the play would be Denver, but we're not going to do it. But I'll give you the space to tell me why we shouldn't.
Well, since Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift made it official, their Chiefs are 4-1 against the spread. So, and they're covering games they used to never cover. They're covering as big favorites now, which is pretty incredible. I'm just not doing what I did last week, where I'm rooting for the Chiefs, but for them to only win between 1 and 6 points. I'm just not doing that again.
It's fine. We have enough games we like. That's fine.
Yeah, just let's skip this one. The next game, though, is I'm so curious because I don't have an opinion on it. I don't think I do. I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Wow. The line's moved in this even since I started prepping. The next one is Cincy at San Francisco. This line was,
Fours
I think
across, it
it's
looks like.
6. Then it moved to
Yeah,
3.5. Then Sam Darnold got announced. I'm seeing some 4.5s actually. Where's
yeah,
this
four,
one at?
4.5.
This
Yeah.
one, yeah. So of course, my opinion here is Cincinnati. Cincinnati for the first reason is just Sam Darnold. Like I don't really need to go in much depth beyond that. If Purdy plays, then that's something to consider. But
He
it's
took reps
essentially
yesterday,
just
like he
like
was. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's possible he ends up playing. Maybe that's why this line has creeped back up. But basically, look, what are we exactly like? What is this line implying? Is this line implying that San Francisco is the team that we all think they are, even though for the last 2 weeks we've clearly seen that they're not the same team? We saw last week. Keep in mind, this is a short week. We saw Fred Warner go down. We saw Dre Greenlaw go down. Deebo Samuel's not going to play on this. McCaffrey's still fighting through that injury. Trent Williams is still fighting through that injury. Like they're not the same team that they were a couple of weeks ago. Like we'll see if Purdy, if Purdy plays, like who knows exactly what state he's in. I would assume he's fine, but we have to at least consider it. The other thing is the Bengals all season they've sort of gotten credit for being the Bengals, and this game it doesn't feel like they are. They're coming off of a bye. They have 2 weeks to prep for this with one of the best defensive coordinators in the league. They've got T. Higgins back, who's been banged up all season. That will totally open up this offense. And just sticking with, and let's just talk about Joe Burrow here. Like he's always better at this point in the season. Like this is just what the Bengals do. They turn it on when they sort of get to that second half of the year. And now when he's the 3-point or more underdog, he's 14-2. Like this guy is just awesome in this spot. So I feel like if this is Sam Darnold, I just feel like this is a smash. If it's Purdy, it's a little bit dicey, but I feel like the Bengals could win this game outright. Like this is just their kind of spot. They're that
And
caliber
Shanahan's
of team
best favorite, right?
pedigree. Shanahan, it's yes, and that's a good point. Like in the past, this is the spot where Shanahan always lets you down. With Purdy, they've covered these games, and they've just been rock solid with him in there. But in the past, we love to fade Shanahan as a favorite. They're also remember too, like this is a short week. Like they've lost 2 in a row, and now they have a short week, and they get Joe Burrow with extra rest. Like it just feels like a little bit of a schedule loss for San Francisco, and they couldn't afford to lose last week.
It's a lot of numbers that go in the direction of the Bengals here. Burrow he's how about this? He's 88% in the 6-point teasers and underdog. 21-3. That's crazy. Wow. Yeah. He's 18 against a spread versus teams above 500. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
it
also
does feel like
the Niners.
Burrow's.
Yeah, it does. The Bengals are now catching 80% of the money, but granted, this line's moved in their direction. The Niners have covered 10 straight at home. Feels like this is a little too automatic. Maybe this is the spot where it evens out.
Yeah.
It's risky. Like the Niners coming off of 2. This is in theory, it could be a buy low spot on the Niners, but I don't feel like it's being priced that way. I feel like it's being priced as if the Bengals just aren't that team. And the Bengals, by the way, like they have to win. The AFC North is the best division in football.
Oh no. I agree.
We think that all those other teams could win this week. So I don't know. Let's put it through because we're gonna have to eliminate some anyway. But 4.5, man, that's a pretty good number.
You see 4.5s?
I do. I see a 4.5.
Okay. Fine with me.
All right. Moving on to the next. Gosh, I have so many maybes written down. The next one is another. God damn it! It's another one I like. It's Baltimore laying 8.5 at Arizona.
Okay.
Wait, do you consider this one? Baltimore.
Who do you like?
The Ravens.
Okay. So, a couple of things here. One is that I opened up the Action Network app, as I do. It's a great tool. Free plug. They're not a sponsor here. We just like the guys at Action Network. Raybon was on the Ravens -8. Shocked. Raybon's like the best out there. He's not. You don't have to pay for his picks. He gives them out for free. He's the best. Okay, here's my only thing on this game is that it's not 8 anymore. It's 9.5 across. God, this feels like such a trappy game, man. Like you have the Ravens off this huge win. They're feeling themselves. And we've bet against these teams all season, Matt. All season we've bet against them, and just going against the grain for us in making that wager. So your sell on this is that are just same as last weekend, right? The Ravens are just that much better than Baltimore. I mean, than Arizona. It doesn't really matter what Arizona does. Baltimore will blow them out.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, here's this Chris, our buddy Raybon gave out this stat this week. Joshua Dobbs is averaging fewer yards per attempt than James Conner was averaging per rush. So it was more efficient for them to hand the ball off to Conner than it was to throw. Like their offense has been a complete disaster, and I think the book's just out on Josh Dobbs. If you throw out that Cowboys game, which let's remember it's the Cowboys, they do things like that. They had some close losses at the beginning of the season to Washington and the Giants. And then the last 2 weeks, they lost by 19, 14, 17, and 10 to the Seahawks. And the Seahawks, I've talked about how skeptical I am of them. Baltimore, they have the Cardinals have a terrible pass defense. Baltimore has one of the best offenses in the league by every metric this year. I just think like everyone's sort of giving Arizona credit for being competitive. I don't really think that they are anymore. And I think that Baltimore, we mentioned just a second ago, they're a team that has to win. The Cardinals, truly have nothing to play for. And when Kyler Murray gets back, maybe they'll sort of turn something on. But how is this game close? Like, what do they do? Is it Mercado rushing the ball?
Baltimore just plays the Seattle game where the Baltimore plays the Pittsburgh game where they just turn the ball over a bunch, which feels unlikely. I'm on the fade bad teams train this year, and it's been working for us. So you don't have to convince me to fade Arizona. We did it last week. Arizona, by the way, has lost games by 19, 14, 17, and 10 now, and Seattle should have won that game by a lot more last weekend. They just have not played good football. So I buy that. I buy Baltimore here.
I do too. I mean, we missed the best of the number. Like the Super Contest is 8.5. This is 9.5. I feel like for that reason, when I'm staring at our list that has 7 good contenders, we should probably pass on this. But love this, and I'm taking them in Survivor Baltimore. I'm not buying this like every team, the best team from the week before loses forever. Like it's been a fun thing to bet on. I don't think that that's happening this week. I think Arizona's already done it. Like they're not going to catch Baltimore by surprise. Yeah. Their coaching staff is just too good in these kind of spots. So Baltimore is the play, but I think amazing teaser candidate. You want to do them and the Chiefs and like, I don't know, like some others, maybe one of these next 2 games. Maybe the Dolphins. Geoff, I lost you for a sec. Maybe you're up. Looks like you're coming back. You're back.
I'm here.
Okay,
I'm here.
We got the two. Yeah, I got you. We've got the Sunday and Monday night games here. Geoff, I'll just tell you in advance. I don't have a side on either of these primetime games.
I don't either. Do you want to skip them for time's sake?
Yeah. Let's lay them out just quickly so the listeners hear them. It's the Bears at the Chargers laying 8. At the Chargers laying 8.5. You can't take the Chargers laying 8.5 against anyone, even Tyson Bagent. But love this as a teaser play. And then the Raiders are at the Lions. Lions off that humiliating loss, laying 8.5. Too big of a number. Maybe.
I took Chargers for Survivor this week.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. That does, but it's the Chargers. So if you lose on that, that's your fault.
I get it, but like at some point, like I still have Baltimore available and the Chiefs, the Niners. Like I have a lot. If Chargers can get me through this weekend, I'm feeling pretty good, man.
Yeah,
pretty good.
Survivor's been a wild west this year. The favorites have all won all these big games. Okay, I thought about the Lions for Survivor on Monday night because they're definitely not going to lose to the Raiders at home.
Yeah, but you can use the Lions again for like Packers or Vikings or Bears.
Yep. They play the Bears in 2 weeks.
All right, so I have 8 games as maybes. You want to go over the 8 games, Matt?
Yeah, let's
get to our vaulted picks. Okay.
Yep.
I feel like Carolina plus 3.5. We could just wipe off, right? We're not doing that.
Let's go through them first.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Carolina plus 3.5. Washington plus 7. Miami minus 9. Tennessee plus 2.5. Green Bay plus 1.5. We both like that one, right? So that's in, I think.
Yeah.
Cleveland plus 4. Bengals plus 4.5. Baltimore minus 9.5. I liked Miami minus 9. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, let's take Baltimore out because we missed the number. And I think we need to just be honest with ourselves and take Tennessee out without a quarterback. Like that could really go wrong. It's a smart play, but it might be a little cute.
That's fine. So now we have Green Bay and Miami in. Green Bay and Miami in. Okay. So now we need to choose 3 of these 4. Carolina, Washington, Cleveland. I like Cleveland a lot. Plus 4. It's Seattle. Right? You like that one?
Yep.
Okay. So it's either now. See, I think Joe Burrow on the road is a favorite. We got to take Joe Burrow, right? Plus 4.5.
Yeah, I think that's fine, and then we can pick one of these bad games for our 5th.
So is it Washington or Carolina? What are you taking?
Man, I like both of them.
Or do you want to throw out one of the other games?
No, I think they're both.
I think Carolina.
I would prefer Carolina. I would prefer not to. I would prefer not to. One other thing: two rookie quarterbacks off, or is it just one rookie quarterback? There's something about rookie quarterbacks off of a bye. They tend to go over. So I think that this game could end up being like the adjustment. Like, oh wow, the Carolina offense, they've like introduced a new wrinkle after the bye. Like, I have a feeling this is just going to be like a high scoring kind of fun game to watch, despite it being kind of a mess. So, all right, Carolina, man.
All right. So here we go. Before we get to the vaulted picks, I'm going to put these in the vaulted app.
Oh my God.
Carolina plus 3.5. Miami minus 9. Green Bay plus 1.5. Cleveland plus 4. Cincinnati plus 4.5. Good?
Which one do you feel worse about? What's the one that you feel tentative about?
Carolina, probably.
I feel a little bit nervous about Green Bay looking at it. I do, but it's the right play. These are the right plays that we only have one backup quarterback in here. Miami, I'm just trailing you. I buy it. I think that they could absolutely smash New England, even though I'm a little nervous about that. We are getting a better number there with 9. I will say that. To get 9 is way better than the 10 and 10.5 I've seen this week.
All right. Well, let's take a break.
There's our 5.
We're back to go over the vaulted pool. We're 23, 10, and 2, guys. So, the process has been working so far. We'll be back in a second. We'll go over the vaulted pool plays, and we'll talk more about what we're doing in the vaulted app. All right, guys, we're back. We're going to over a vaulted pool. Remember, that's VLTED. Come and join. Find me, Geoff. It's our pool, Geoff. The winner gets $400 this week. Second place gets $75. Third place gets $25. It's 20 questions. You predict, basically, if you think it's going to happen or not. Agree or disagree. You can do a value of 1 to 10. And in the end, we add it all up, and we get winners. Remember, if you beat me, you get to qualify for the big game pool, which will be $5,000 a day of the big game. Again, the Vaulted app. It's a ton of fun. We love having them as a partner this year. We've had a lot of fun doing this. So, Matt, the questions this week are always a lot of fun. They go along with obviously a lot of what we do. Right off the bat, you said this: Jacksonville scored 20 points or more, right, every game so far this season. So, are you going to agree or disagree with Jags score more than 22.5 points against the Steelers?
It was the Colts who did that, but I will say that I do think the Steelers, as good as their defense has been, they're good at like they still give up a lot of points every once in a while. I will say that they will. I think that we're probably just a little bit afraid to lay it with the Jags, so I will take the yes on that side. I think that's more of a 5-pointer for me than a 10-pointer, but I do think that Jacksonville will put up some points. Do you?
I do. I do. So I would agree with that. Going kind of down this list here, Tua Tagovailoa will score more than 2.5 total touchdowns against the Patriots. So does that include rushing touchdowns? He hasn't really rushed the ball very much, though. Maybe no Tyreek Hill in this game. I might lean to disagree with this one. And they run the ball. I think they score a bunch of points, but maybe not always in the passing game. 7 games played, only 15 not only, but 15 passing touchdowns. They have the most rushing touchdowns in the NFL with 15. I would go disagree here.
Well, if that's a disagree, then our -9 might be in trouble. I sure hope Tyreek Hill plays.
Dude, they can rush the ball just fine against the Patriots.
Yeah, they can. So it could be the Raheem Mostert game or the Jeff Wilson game or whatever. I'm nervous about that 9 points, Jeff. I'm not going to lie, but I do think
okay.
I think Tua
okay.
That's a good one. That's a good line. I think you could make a good argument for either side here. Okay, I love that. I'm looking ahead in this contest here.
I like. Can I give you one in the middle here? I like Dak Prescott will more passing yards than Matt Stafford. Disagree. Give me Matt Stafford in this game, man. Matt Stafford again with Puka Nacua, with Cooper Kupp against the Cowboys secondary. The Cowboys want to run the football. We know that. Matt Stafford is on track to go way over. We had him this year for over. Remember, this one. Well, Dak will have more passing yards than Matt Stafford. Disagree.
Yeah, I my connection went in and out for you a bit there, but I will add to that and say this is the kind of game that if you do like the Rams, you feel like they might even be down a little bit and they just throw their way back into this, right? The way that they win this game is not with Royce Freeman and Darrell Henderson. It's just moving the ball down the field. I feel like they could be down 20 points and cover. Like it just feels like they're going to have one of those games. To that point, I think CeeDee Lamb having more receiving yards than Kupp, I would probably fade that one. Looking ahead to you do get the Ravens at the 8.5 number. I think that's a 10-pointer.
I like that.
For me.
I saw that. Yeah. Yes.
You can get the Broncos plus 7.5. That would be another 10 for me. I just don't think the Chiefs are going to cover by more than a touchdown. And AJ Brown, they have his receiving number at 89.5 yards against the Commanders. That was sort of the game that turned his season around, and he's been on that crazy run of 125 yards a game every single game. And I believe he had one the week before, but then he had that 2-touchdown, 175-yard game where he popped off against last time. So I would take his over there. Be pretty confident in that one.
So, guys, it's very simple. Again, you go to the Vaulted app. It's right here. It's awesome. It's easy to use. Find my pool. Join it. I'm also logged. And that's it, Matt. We have a show. And we wish Matt the best of luck, him and Ivy, next week. And we'll figure out what to do without you for 1 week.
I'm losing you, Jeff. If you're watching along live and you're losing Jeff too.
Yes.
Let me just say, maybe I'll send you a pic. So maybe I'll give you a little.
All right. Well, it's about time to end this. This is.
Oh.
I am in the mountains. I think we're done here, Matt. This is it. The internet said we're done. We'll talk to you guys on Monday. Have a good weekend, everyone. Talk to you guys later.
See you, buddy.